Christmas Eve in my house used to feel warm. This year it felt crowded. Too many voices, too much noise, and not enough respect. I walked around the table one last time, checking the plates, the roast, the small red envelopes I always placed beside each dish. A simple tradition. Nothing fancy. Ethan walked in from the kitchen with a glass of wine that was already half gone. He didn't look at me. He just sat and grabbed a roll off the basket. "Mom, you didn't have to cook this much," he muttered. "I know," I replied. I wanted everyone fed. Lydia entered behind him, adjusting her new diamond necklace like she wanted the lights to hit it just right. Her parents followed, talking loudly about some cruise they took last month. They didn't bother greeting me, just sat down with smiles that felt rehearsed. I took my seat at the end of the table. Martha Monroe looked around. "Nora, everything looks nice." "Thank you," I answered. "I try." Dinner started normally. Kids laughing, forks clinking, small jokes here and there. But Ethan kept drinking, and Lydia kept touching that necklace like she was waiting for someone to ask about it. And then she said it. "My parents gave me this for Christmas. Real diamonds. They said I deserve something special this year." Ethan laughed. "She sure does." I kept cutting the turkey. "It's beautiful," I said. Nothing more. Then Ethan leaned back, looked straight at me, and spoke louder than he needed to. "You know what would be the best Christmas gift tonight?" Everyone stopped talking, even the kids. Ethan shrugged like it was nothing. "If you would just leave." My hand froze over my plate. "Leave what?" "This house. Leave us alone. Let us live our lives without feeling watched." Nobody said a word. Lydia looked down at her plate, but she wasn't surprised. Her parents stared at their water glasses, like they suddenly found something interesting there. My granddaughter's smile disappeared. My grandson whispered, "Dad, stop." Ethan ignored him. "You've been controlling," he continued. "It's too much, and honestly, Mom, you're making things uncomfortable. This is supposed to be our home, too." I put my fork down, calm. Not a shake in my fingers. "Are you telling me to leave my own house?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I am." Lydia took a sip of her drink. No shock, no disagreement. She was waiting for this. I looked around the table. Anyone else feel the same? Silence. Gerald shifted in his chair. Martha cleared her throat. No one defended me. I pushed my chair back and stood up. "Well," I said, "if that's what you want, you'll have your gift tonight." Ethan blinked. "Mom, don't start." "I'm not starting anything," I replied. "I'm ending dinner." I took a breath. Not shaky, not weak, just tired of being disrespected in the house I paid for, maintained, and kept running for 5 years while they tried to rebuild their lives. I walked to the hallway while everyone sat frozen. Lydia whispered, barely audible, "This is better, Ethan. She'll calm down." I heard it. I chose not to respond. At the coat rack, I grabbed my jacket, my handbag, my car keys. I moved slowly, not because of age, but because I wanted them to feel every second they pushed me out. Behind me, Ethan called out, "Mom, come on! Don't be dramatic!" I turned around. Dramatic is shouting at your mother in her own house on Christmas Eve. He didn't answer. I looked at Lydia. "Enjoy your necklace." She tightened her jaw. Then I looked at the kids. "Finish your dinner. Don't worry. Grandma's fine." Their eyes followed me, sad, confused. They knew what respect looked like, even if their parents didn't. I opened the front door. The cold air hit my face, but it felt cleaner than the air inside. Ethan stepped forward like he wanted to stop me. He didn't. "Mom," he muttered, "you don't have to leave right now." "You asked me to," I replied. "I'm simply listening." And I stepped outside. I walked to my car. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I didn't curse life or blame anyone. I sat down, turned the engine on, and watched the warm lights of the house I built, the house I could lose if I kept letting them walk all over me. They wanted space. They would get it. They wanted me gone. I would show them what gone really meant. And tomorrow morning, everything would change. I drove without turning the radio on. I didn't want music. I didn't want noise. I just needed a place where nobody talked over me, nobody told me I was too much, and nobody treated me like I was a guest in the house I paid for. Charleston was quiet. Most homes had lights on, people laughing inside, kids running around. I passed them one by one, keeping my eyes on the road. My hands were steady on the wheel. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I wasn't anything. Just tired. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I let it ring. It buzzed again. I didn't touch it. I pulled into the small public beach lot Harold and I used to stop at years ago. I turned the engine off and sat there with my coat still on, breathing slow. I wasn't cold. I just needed the world to stop moving for a minute. My phone lit up again. A voicemail. I pressed play. Ethan's voice came through, lower, sober, trying to sound calm. "Mom, look, just come back tomorrow, okay? We were stressed. It came out wrong. Just come home in the morning." I stared at the dashboard. That wasn't an apology. That was cleanup. Another message arrived a minute later. "Lydia, we didn't mean to upset you. We'll talk tomorrow." I whispered, "You meant every word." Nobody accidentally tells their mother to leave her own house. Not on Christmas Eve. Not after months of tension. Not after the way Lydia watched him speak to me like it was rehearsed. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes. I tried to picture Harold next to me, the way he used to sit with his arm resting on the window. He would have hated what happened tonight. He would have hated hearing our son talk to me like that. A soft knock on my window made me straighten up. An older couple was walking by with their dog. The man leaned down slightly. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked kindly. "I'm fine," I replied. "Just needed some air." "Christmas can be a lot," he said with a small laugh. "Yes," I answered. "It can." They walked off. Their dog barked once and kept going. I looked out at the water. It moved quietly, coming in and out. No drama, no noise, just steady. I breathed in slowly. I wasn't going back tonight. I wasn't going back tomorrow morning either. I reached for my phone. Not to answer, I just checked the time. 11:42 p.m. I opened my messages. Ethan had sent another one. "We didn't mean it literally. Just come back tomorrow. It's your home too." I locked the screen. People always remember your value the moment you stop giving. I sat there for a long minute, thinking about how the night played out, every detail, every face, every silence around that table. They weren't shocked. They weren't horrified. They were comfortable watching me walk out. When your own family is comfortable with your absence, your presence has been used, not appreciated. I turned the engine back on and drove to the nearest motel, one of those small places with a flickering sign and a lobby that smelled faintly of coffee. I walked in with my bag, and the young woman behind the counter looked up. "Checking in?" she asked. "Yes, one night." She typed something on her computer and handed me a key card. "Room 12. Breakfast starts at 7. "Thank you." In the room, I hung my coat on the back of the chair, sat on the bed, and loosened my shoes. The room was simple. A small table, a lamp, a clean blanket. Nothing special, but peaceful. Peace was enough. My phone buzzed again. I looked at it but didn't pick it up. Another voicemail. Another attempt to pull me back before I cooled down. Before I thought clearly. Before I understood something important. They only want you close when you're predictable. I sat with my hands on my knees and breathed. Slow, even. What happened tonight wasn't a slip. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't holiday stress. It was a choice. And once someone chooses how to treat you, forcing them to choose differently never works. You stop pushing. You stop begging. You stop explaining. You step back and watch their world rearrange itself without you holding it up. The lamp on the nightstand flickered. I turned it off. The darkness felt easier to sit in. I whispered to myself, not out of sadness but out of certainty, I'm not going back to that house until I decide what stays and what ends. No threats, no tears, just a clear line. Tomorrow morning was no longer about keeping peace. It was about keeping myself, and that decision felt steady, clean, unshaken. I lay back on the bed, pulled the blanket over me, and closed my eyes. They wanted me gone. Tomorrow they would see what that really meant. I woke up before the sun. No alarm, no noise, just my own mind telling me it was time to move. I sat at the small motel table and drank the weak coffee they offered at the lobby. It wasn't good, but it was quiet, and quiet was all I needed. 3 new messages blinked on my phone. Ethan: Mom, come home so we can talk. Lydia: Let's clear things up today. Yesterday was stressful. Ethan again: Don't overthink it. It wasn't that serious. Not serious. I placed the phone face down. At 8:30, I drove back to the house, not to stay, just to get my things. The decision was clean in my mind, no turning back. When I walked in, Lydia stood at the stove in an apron she never used. She turned with a bright fake smile. "Oh, Nora, we were just about to check on you." Her tone was too sweet, like she practiced it. "I'm here for my belongings," I told her. The smile cracked a little. Ethan came out of the hallway, rubbing his temple. "Mom, we can handle this like adults." "I am handling it," I replied. I walked past both of them toward the kitchen counter. That's when I saw the folder. Thick manila, with Lydia's handwriting on the sticky note. Property documents. Lydia almost tripped getting to it. She slid it away from the edge like I was going to snatch it. "Oh, that? Just some things we were organizing, house stuff. You don't need to look at it." "Then open it," I said. Her hands froze. Ethan stepped in. "Mom, come on. We were trying to help." "Then open it," I repeated. Lydia shook her head. "Nora, you're making this uncomfortable." I looked right at her. "Good. Discomfort is honest." Her face went stiff. Ethan exhaled. "We were checking on future planning, that's all." "Without telling me?" I asked. He avoided my eyes. Lydia lifted her chin. "We were trying to make things easier for everyone." "Last night you had no problem making things easier," I said calmly. "You watched me walk out." Lydia blinked fast. "You misunderstood everything." "No," I replied. "I understood exactly what happened." She stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was the reasonable one. "You blew up a small argument into something huge." "Small?" I looked at her directly. "Your husband told me to leave my own home. You smiled and let it happen." Ethan looked at her, just for a second, and her jaw tightened. I tapped the folder lightly with one finger. "Let's make this simple. If there's nothing inside, open it." Lydia crossed her arms. "You don't trust us." "That's correct," I answered. The air in the room tightened. She tried another tactic. "We should all sit down, talk calmly. You left in the middle of dinner. The kids cried." I kept my voice level. "The kids cried because they saw disrespect, not because I left." Lydia's smile disappeared entirely. "You're being dramatic." "And you're being careless," I replied. "I'm not here for breakfast. I'm here for my things." I walked to the hallway. Lydia followed me fast. "Nora, stop. This is our house, too." I turned to her slowly. "Not yet." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I stepped into the guest room. My suitcase was on the bed, but the moment I saw the drawers, I froze. Everything had been moved. Not messy, but searched. Quietly. Intentionally. My jewelry box was open. Papers weren't where I left them. Lydia stood in the doorway, arms tucked behind her back. "We thought you needed help organizing." "Into what?" I asked. "A folder that says property documents?" She swallowed. Ethan hovered behind her. "Mom, we were trying to protect the house." I folded another shirt and placed it into the suitcase. "From who?" No one answered. Lydia tried laughing it off. "We didn't take anything." "That's not the problem," I said. "Opening drawers you don't belong in is." Her cheeks reddened. She snapped, "You're acting like we're criminals." I zipped the suitcase, lifted it with one hand, and looked her in the eye. "When honest people get confronted, they talk. You panic." Her breath hitched. Ethan looked away. I walked past them both. down the stairs to the coat rack without hesitation. Lydia followed again. "Nora, you're twisting everything," she insisted. I put on my coat. "No, I'm finally seeing it clearly." Ethan stepped forward. "Just stay today. We'll sit down and—" "No," I said, cutting him off with just one word. His shoulders dropped. Lydia grabbed the banister like she needed it to stay steady. "What are you planning?" "I'm coming back later," I told her. "With someone who knows how to explain things you pretend not to understand." "Who?" she asked too fast. "You'll see." I opened the door. Lydia whispered sharply, "We didn't do anything wrong." I didn't turn around. "If that folder is truly nothing, Lydia—" I paused just enough for every word to sink in. "Then you have nothing to be afraid of." And I walked out. I didn't drive far. I just went around the block and parked a few houses down. I needed 10 minutes, not to calm down, but to think straight. People say a lot when they think you're gone, and I wanted to know exactly what Lydia and Ethan planned once the door closed behind me. After 10 minutes, I walked back quietly. I didn't slam the gate. I didn't step on the porch boards that always squeaked. I stopped just before the front door and listened. Their voices were low, but not low enough. Ethan sounded frustrated. "Why didn't you hide the folder?" Lydia whispered back sharply. "I did hide it. She wasn't supposed to be here this early." "You left it on the counter," he said. "She wasn't supposed to see it," Lydia snapped. I leaned closer. My heartbeat didn't speed up. My breathing didn't change. I just listened. Ethan spoke again. "She's suspicious now." "She was suspicious before," Lydia shot back. "Last night pushed her to leave. And that's what we needed. You should have stuck with the plan instead of drinking too much." Ethan groaned. "You were the one who told me to be firm." "I didn't tell you to kick her out on Christmas Eve," Lydia hissed. "Now she's alert." I closed my eyes for a second. That single sentence confirmed everything. They had coordinated the humiliation. Inside, footsteps moved closer. Ethan said quietly, "What if she tells someone?" "She won't," Lydia answered. "She always handles things inside the family. She won't embarrass herself publicly." Interesting. That's what they thought of me. That I would protect their reputation before my own dignity. Ethan kept pacing. "She said she's coming back with someone. What does that mean?" "It means she's bluffing," Lydia said. "She has no one. Her lawyer friend retired years ago. She doesn't know how to handle paperwork. She can't fight this." That made me smirk, because she was wrong on every count. Martin Cole was not only active, he was sharper than ever. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then Lydia said, "We move fast. We go tomorrow. 10 o'clock. Not a minute later." My stomach tightened, not from fear, but from confirmation. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Exactly what I needed to hear. Ethan's voice lowered. "What if she refuses to sign?" "She won't get the chance," Lydia replied. "Mr. Duarte has everything ready. He said it's just a formality." Mr. Duarte. That name stuck. Ethan hesitated. "Are we doing something illegal?" Now Lydia dropped the friendly tone completely. "Ethan, listen, your mother is old. She's overwhelmed. She needs us to manage things. This is for her own good." I almost laughed out loud. "For her own good never means what people pretend it means," Lydia continued, more impatient. "If we don't secure the house now, she'll give it to Natalie. You know that." Ah, so that was it. Fear of losing the house to my daughter. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing money. Ethan exhaled loudly. "I don't want to fight Mom." "You already did," Lydia replied. "Finish what you started." Inside, something crashed softly. A glass or a cup. Ethan muttered, "I didn't mean to say it like that last night." "You meant it enough to say it," Lydia said flatly. That silence afterward, that was guilt settling. I stepped back from the door. My plan was set, clean and final. I walked down the steps and headed to my car. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't waiting for them to act. Their timeline had just become my leverage. Before getting in, I called someone I trusted. Martin answered on the second ring. "Morning, Nora. I had a feeling I'd hear from you." "I need you," I told him. His voice sharpened immediately. "What happened?" "Let's just say," I replied, "someone thinks I'm too old to understand documents." Martin didn't laugh. "Where are you now?" "In my driveway," I said. "Or close enough." "Do not," he stressed the word, "let anyone in your house and do not show them anything. I'll be there in an hour." "There's a meeting tomorrow at 10, I added. Martin paused. "Then we'll be ready at 9. "No," I said earlier. He understood. "On my way," he replied. I hung up and glanced at the house. Inside, Lydia and Ethan's silhouettes moved back and forth through the curtains like they were pacing, preparing, planning. They thought I was gone. They thought I was helpless. They thought I wouldn't fight back. They were about to learn that the quietest person in a room is usually the one who acts the cleanest and the fastest. I started the car. Today was the last day anyone would underestimate me. I arrived back at the house with Martin a few minutes before 9. He stepped out of his car in a clean gray suit carrying a thick briefcase. He didn't smile. He didn't joke. He looked at the house like it was a crime scene he already understood. "You ready?" he asked. "I've been ready since last night," I answered. We walked to the door. Before I could knock, Ethan opened it. He froze when he saw Martin beside me. "Mom, you brought someone?" "I did," I said plainly. "This is Martin." Ethan blinked. Your lawyer?" "Long-time friend," Martin corrected. "Who knows what proper paperwork looks like?" Ethan stepped back. Inside, Lydia sat at the dining table, dressed nicer than necessary, shoulders straight, folder neatly placed in front of her. Across from her sat a man in a dark suit with slick hair and a briefcase, Mr. Duarte. He stood immediately. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said, reaching out his hand. "I've been reviewing your documents. We're ready to finalize things." Martin didn't let me respond. He stepped forward first. "And you are?" "Attorney Duarte," the man replied. "I'm representing Ethan and Lydia today. We just need her to sign a few formalities. Very routine." Martin's expression didn't change. "Interesting, because I didn't receive notice of this meeting, and I manage Mrs. Caldwell's legal affairs." Lydia jumped in quickly. "We didn't know we had to notify you." Martin didn't look at her. "You didn't know because you assumed she was unrepresented." Lydia stiffened. Martin placed his briefcase on the table and opened it with a slow, deliberate click. "Before anything is signed, I want to see every document you're presenting." Mr. Duarte forced a polite smile. "There's no need. This is simple. Just a transfer of authority for convenience. A medical recommendation, a proof of capacity form, and a house management authorization." Martin's eyebrow lifted. "Medical recommendation? Proof of capacity? Why would she need that?" Lydia looked at Ethan. Ethan avoided eye contact. I gestured lightly. "Open the folder." Lydia swallowed. "Nora, let's not turn this into a circus." "Then open it," I repeated. With a small sigh of defeat, she slid the folder toward Martin. He put on his reading glasses and examined the first page carefully. He spoke calmly. "This says Nora has diminished decision-making ability due to age-related cognitive decline." Ethan's face went pale. Martin lifted the paper higher so all could see. "This signature belongs to Dr. Peterson." Lydia nodded quickly. "Yes, he examined her last year." "He died 2 years ago," Martin replied flatly. The room went dead quiet. Duarte blinked fast. "That can't be correct." Martin pulled another paper from his briefcase, an obituary. "I attended his funeral." Ethan whispered, "Lydia?" She stammered, I didn't handle that part. Mr. Duarte." Martin turned to Duarte with steel in his voice. "Forging a medical evaluation is a felony. Presenting it is another. And using it to seize property crosses into real criminal territory." Duarte opened his mouth, closed it, then said, "I was given these documents. I assumed—" That's your problem, Martin cut in. Assumption is not a defense. Lydia raised her hands defensively. We were only trying to help manage the house. Nora forgets things sometimes. I don't forget legal ownership, I responded. My voice stayed calm, almost too calm. Martin picked up another document, a transfer of authority giving Ethan and Lydia full control of the house, including the right to sell. Dated today, 10 a.m. Ethan whispered, I didn't know it said that. You knew enough, Martin replied. Your signatures are here. Lydia turned red. This is being blown out of proportion. We were trying to protect the house. Nora makes emotional decisions. Leaving last night was emotional? I asked. Or was it clarity? She said nothing. Martin stacked the fraudulent documents neatly. Here's the situation. You tried to strip her rights using forged medical forms. That's fraud, coercion, falsification of legal documents, and attempted property seizure. Duarte grabbed his briefcase. I want no part of this. You already have a part, Martin said, but I'll let the district attorney decide how much. Duarte stood abruptly, almost tripping over his chair. I have to leave. You should, Martin replied coldly. He left without shaking anyone's hand. Lydia attempted one more angle. Nora, this is all a misunderstanding. We didn't plan anything wrong. Martin turned to her. You brought a lawyer, forged a medical document, and prepared a property transfer. That's planning. Ethan looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Mom, I didn't know she... I'm not asking what you knew, I said. I'm looking at what you signed. He rubbed his forehead. I made a mistake. No, I responded quietly. You made a choice. Lydia stepped forward. Nora, please. Martin lifted his palm to stop her. From this moment forward, you are not to access any of Nora's personal papers. You are not to request signatures. You are not to handle her mail, her accounts, or her house keys. If you do, we file immediately. Her face drained of color. Martin looked at me. Ready to go? I nodded. As we walked to the door, Lydia whispered, voice shaking. What are you going to do? I turned to her with the calmest certainty I'd felt in years. I'm going to fix what you tried to break. And we left. I stayed seated at the kitchen table for a long time after Martin left. The house was too quiet. Every sound from upstairs was sharp, controlled. Ethan and Lydia whispering, pacing, opening drawers, closing them again. They thought the floorboards didn't carry sound. They were wrong. I opened another folder on the table, one I kept for bank receipts and old statements. I didn't panic. I went page by page, nothing missing, nothing moved. All in order. That meant one thing. Whatever they had done, they hadn't finished. They were rushing now, and rushed people make mistakes. Footsteps came down the stairs. Lydia appeared first. She didn't step into the kitchen. She lingered at the doorway with a polite smile that didn't match her eyes. Everything okay? Her voice was soft, too soft. It sounded like a heavy conversation. You heard enough to know what kind of conversation it was. She stiffened, but kept the smile. Nora, we can talk. Maybe things got out of hand. People say things they don't mean. You're not in a position to soften anything. My voice stayed low. You brought a fake lawyer into my home. Lydia's fingers tightened around her phone. He's not fake. He's connected. That's exactly the problem. Ethan came into view behind her, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes darting between us like a child waiting for permission to speak. Nora, he started. We just wanted to make sure everything was... Don't finish that sentence, I cut in. You lied, both of you. His shoulders dropped. Lydia stepped in front of him, defensive. We were trying to help. You've been stressed. You forget things. Name one thing I forgot. Silence. Then Ethan tried again. Mom, we thought... You thought taking my house behind my back was reasonable. Let's not dress it up. Lydia's tone sharpened. It wouldn't have hurt you. You'd still live comfortably. We're the ones drowning here. You don't understand what pressure feels like. I buried a husband, raised 2 children alone, ran a household, and paid every bill without asking anyone for a dime. My voice stayed even. I understand pressure better than both of you. Neither spoke. For 5 years, I continued, you lived here without rent, without paying utilities, without lifting a finger unless I reminded you. So don't talk to me about drowning. Lydia looked away first. Ethan swallowed hard. You could have just told us no, Lydia murmured. You didn't need to involve lawyers. You involved lawyers. I involved the truth. Ethan took a step closer. Mom, what happens now? Now? I folded the folder shut. Now I protect myself. He blinked, stunned by the simplicity of the answer. Lydia let out a quiet, bitter laugh. So you're going to punish us? No, I'm going to set boundaries, something neither of you expected. A door creaked upstairs, just the house settling, but they both jerked their heads like guilty teenagers. They were scared, not of me, of consequences. Martin will run a check, I continued. Every registry, every file, every attempt you made, if there is one more document, one more signature, one more visit to a notary— There isn't, Ethan interrupted quickly. It was just today, just that meeting. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It already went too far. His eyes watered, but he held it in. Lydia crossed her arms, jaw tight. I don't understand why you're reacting like this, she muttered. Because your plan required me to lose everything. My tone didn't rise even an inch. What reaction were you hoping for? Neither had an answer. I stood. Their bodies stiffened, as if waiting for another blow, but I didn't need to raise my voice or make threats. You two should go upstairs, I said plainly. Pack whatever is yours. Don't touch anything else. Ethan froze. You're kicking us out? I'm enforcing reality. You can't do that, Lydia snapped. We live here. You stay here because I allowed it. That ends tonight. Ethan's mouth trembled. We don't have anywhere else. Not my responsibility anymore. He pressed a hand to his forehead. Mom, please, just give us a few days. You have tonight, that's all. A long silence stretched. Lydia looked at Ethan as though waiting for him to argue, yell, bargain, anything. But he didn't. He knew. They walked upstairs without another word. Lydia's steps were heavy, angry. Ethan's were slow, defeated. I stayed in the kitchen, listening to them opening drawers, stuffing clothes into bags, whispering harshly at each other. I didn't say another word. I didn't need to. An hour later, they came down carrying 2 small suitcases. Lydia didn't look at me. Ethan did. I didn't want this, he whispered. Then you shouldn't have started it. He opened his mouth, closed it, nodded. They stepped outside. Lydia walked to the car without looking back. Ethan hesitated at the door, eyes shining with a kind of regret that comes too late. Nora, we'll talk tomorrow? No, tomorrow is for actions, not talk. He nodded again and followed Lydia. When the door finally clicked shut, the silence of the house didn't hurt. It felt honest, and honesty was the first thing they tried to take from me. I woke up before the alarm. Not from worry, just from clarity. The house wasn't loud anymore. No whispers. No footsteps sneaking across the hall. No fake apologies, just quiet. I went straight to my office. The safe sat where it always sat. I entered the code. The lock clicked open. Everything looked untouched, but something was off. The manila envelope holding the deed copies wasn't exactly where I left it. I always placed it flush against the back wall. Now, it leaned forward by half an inch. Half an inch is all I need to know when someone's been somewhere they shouldn't be. I checked the contents. Every page was still inside. No missing seals, no removed statements. So Lydia hadn't managed to take anything, but she had tried. A phone buzzed on the desk. Martin calling early. I put him on speaker. Morning. His voice came sharp. Something kept nagging me last night. Did you check your safe yet? It's open, I answered. One envelope moved, nothing stolen. His tone shifted. They were testing access. If she found the envelope with the deed copies, she was looking for the originals too. She didn't get them. She will try again. I picked up the envelope. Not today. A second call came through. Laura from the registry office. I switched lines. She didn't waste air. Mrs. Caldwell, a transfer request was filed yesterday. It uses your signature. My fingers tightened around the envelope. Time? Filed at 4:17 p.m. If you don't show up before noon, your house legally moves into your son's household. A small breath left my chest. Not panic, just calculation. Did anyone accompany the request? I asked. A man claiming to be your representative. Brown suit. Nervous. That matched the fake lawyer. Hold the file, I told her. I'm on my way. Martin was still on the other line. Heard it all, he muttered. Grab every original document. I'll meet you outside the registry. And Nora? Yes? Don't trust a single apology today. I won't. I hung up, collected my folder, locked every drawer, checked every window. I left nothing open, not a gap they could slip through. Outside, the morning air was crisp. Not forgiving, not harsh, just honest. Driving to the registry, my thoughts lined up cleanly. They filed a transfer. They used a forged signature. They expected I wouldn't act. They forgot who raised this family. Martin waited near the entrance, coat unbuttoned, papers tucked under one arm. You're fast, he said. I don't waste time. We walked in together. Laura waved us over immediately, eyes wide. I pulled the file, she said. It's sloppy. Someone rushed it. Let me see, I asked. She turned the screen. The signature looked like mine, if mine were written by someone who'd never held a pen properly. The strokes were off. The slant was wrong. Martin tapped the screen. They didn't even try to match the pressure points. Amateur work. Desperate work, I corrected. Laura nodded. I can cancel the request, but I need your written statement. She handed me a form, standard fraud documentation. I read it line by line, not long, not complicated, just truth. And truth is easy to sign. After stamping the cancellation, Laura breathed out. You're safe. The system locked the file. Martin stepped aside with her, asking about protocol for future alerts. I kept watching the screen. Something in the request timestamp bothered me. Laura, I called, pull the day's log. She clicked through. Another file appeared, another transfer request, same property details, same forged signature. Time, 4:47 p.m., 30 minutes after the first attempt. Laura blinked. This just hit the system. A second lawyer filed it. Martin exhaled hard. They set a backup plan. My jaw tightened. They planned for failure. That tells me everything. Laura looked at me, waiting. Do you want this one canceled too? Yes, and I want the second fraud form. She pulled it up immediately. I signed. My name came out steady, clean. No shaking, Martin observed. Why would I shake? I closed the folder. I'm not the one who lied. He gave a small, proud nod. You're ahead of them, Nora. They didn't expect this version of you. They expected the mother who forgives too easily, I corrected, not the woman who protects what she built. When we stepped outside again, the sun had risen fully, and Ethan's car was pulling up. He climbed out alone, looking tired, pale, older than he should look for 45. Mom, can we talk? He asked softly. Martin crossed his arms. Not without me. Ethan's eyes flicked between us. I didn't know she filed anything. Lydia handled everything. I thought it was just paperwork. Her word, not mine. You trust her more than you verify anything. My voice stayed flat. He looked like the truth stung. I'm sorry for what happened yesterday. Yesterday was the symptom, I replied. This morning is the diagnosis. He shifted uncomfortably. Mom, we didn't want to hurt you. You didn't care if it hurt, as long as you got the house. His shoulders slumped. What do we do now? You watch, I told him calmly, and you learn what consequences look like. His lips parted, but no words came out. He finally understood. This wasn't a fight. This was accountability. And I wasn't done. Martin and I stepped out of the registry, thinking the worst part was done. For about 30 seconds it was. Then his phone buzzed again. He checked the screen, frowned, and turned it toward me. "Laura's calling back." "That's never good," I answered. "What now?" Her voice came through fast, tight. "Mrs. Caldwell, the system flagged a second transfer attempt, filed 30 minutes after the first." Martin muttered something under his breath. I stayed still. "A second lawyer submitted it," Laura continued. "Different name, same forged signature." I didn't raise my voice. "Cancel that one too." "I can, but you need to sign another cancellation and another fraud statement, in person." "We're coming back." I hung up. Martin shook his head. "They planned a backup? They don't trust each other, so they doubled the crime." "They miscalculated," I replied. "Twice." We stepped back inside. Laura already had the second file pulled up. This signature was worse than the first one, like someone had watched my handwriting for 2 seconds and guessed the rest. Martin tapped the screen. "That's insulting. They didn't even try." "People who cheat assume everyone else is blind," I answered. Laura slid the document toward me. I signed the second cancellation, then the second fraud form. My lines were straight, controlled. She stamped both forms. "It's official. No further attempt can go through without triggering an alert." "Good," I replied, "because they aren't done trying." When we walked back out, someone was leaning against my car. Lydia. Perfect makeup, perfect posture, perfect arrogance. But her eyes gave away something new. Fear she hadn't learned to hide yet. She pushed off the car and folded her arms. "So this is what we're doing now? Dragging us through government offices?" "You dragged yourself," I replied. She scoffed. "Come on, Nora. A simple conversation would have solved this." "You brought a fake lawyer into my home yesterday," I reminded her. The conversation ended then. Her face tightened, but she held the smile. "You're being dramatic." "You're being criminal," Martin added. Lydia ignored him. "We were just trying to help. You're older. You forget things. You misplace documents. You repeat yourself. We were worried. I remember every detail you wish I'd forget," I cut in, "including every attempt you made to access my safe." She blinked. Once, sharply. That told me everything. "You're twisting this," she insisted. "Ethan and I have kept this house running for years." "You lived rent-free for 5, I corrected. "Don't confuse convenience with sacrifice." Her jaw clenched. "You can't pretend we're the villains." "You filed 2 illegal transfer requests before breakfast," I replied. "You can drop the innocent act." She looked at Martin, then back at me. "You really went behind our backs to cancel everything?" "You went behind mine first." Lydia stepped closer. "Ethan is devastated. He thinks you hate him." "I don't hate him." My tone stayed even. "I'm just done paying for his mistakes." Her lips parted, surprised by the bluntness. "You'd choose paperwork over your own son?" "No," I corrected. "I'm choosing integrity over people who exploit it." She flinched at the word. Then she tried another angle. "This house should stay in the family." "It is staying in the family," I answered. "Just not the part trying to steal it." Her cheeks flushed red. "You think this makes you strong? It makes you petty." "A petty person hides behind forged documents," I replied calmly. "A strong one signs the cancellation in daylight." Lydia glanced at Martin, searching for a reaction. He remained stone still. Finally, she threw the last card she had. "You're going to regret treating us like this." I didn't blink. "No, but you'll regret assuming I wouldn't fight back." For a moment, the parking lot felt so quiet you could hear her confidence crack. She tried to recover. "Ethan won't forgive you." "He doesn't have to forgive me," I answered. "He only has to stop lying." Her breathing changed, tight, uneven. The fight was draining out of her, but I wasn't done. "You planned 2 traps," I continued. "You failed both. That tells me everything I need to know about your competence." Her mouth opened, then closed again. I took a step forward, not threatening, just precise. "If you try a 3rd time, Lydia, the next person you speak to won't be me. It'll be a detective." Martin added, "And I'll be standing next to him." Lydia looked from me to Martin, then down at the ground, a rare sight. Finally, she turned away. "You're unbelievable," she muttered, walking off. "No," I answered calmly. "I'm prepared." Her steps quickened, heels clicking harder against the pavement, each one a retreat. Martin watched her go. "She's unraveling." She started unraveling the moment she underestimated me. He smiled slightly. "What's next?" "We go home," I said. "You call the locksmith, and I end every shared financial tie today." "Consider it done." I looked at the rising sun. 2 attempts failed, and I hadn't even begun the real counterstrike yet. The city registry lobby was already busy when Martin and I stepped back inside for the final round of paperwork. People lined up with coffee cups, kids tugging at their sleeves, clerks stamping forms in a steady rhythm. Ordinary life. Except today, my ordinary life included pressing criminal charges on my own son. Martin walked beside me, flipping through the folder. "You know," he murmured, 90% of these cases collapse because the victim backs out." "I'm not backing out." "That's why we're here." We approached Laura's desk. She had a stack of documents ready. "Mrs. Caldwell, Mr. Cole, everything is verified. Both attempts qualify as fraud. The forgeries are obvious, and the backup request makes it worse." "Good," I replied. "Let's finish this." She slid the complaint packet across the table. "This is the formal fraud report against Ethan Caldwell and Lydia Monroe Caldwell." Hearing their names printed together didn't sting. It clarified everything I had been trying not to see. Martin handed me a pen. "This is the line between chaos and order, Nora." My hand didn't shake. I filled out each section. Date, location, description, evidence included, witness present, registry clerk confirming inconsistencies. Laura pointed to the final box. "This confirms your pressing charges." I checked it. Hard, deliberate. Martin smiled at the certainty. "Most people hesitate. You didn't." Hesitation is how they got this far. Laura took the forms and stamped them with a thick red seal. "That's it. The fraud is officially logged. The case moves forward today." "What happens next?" I asked. "The district office will issue notice to both parties," Laura answered. "Because the forged signature involved property transfer, it becomes a criminal investigation immediately. They'll be called to give statements within 48 hours. Martin added, "They won't talk. They'll panic." "They already are," I replied. We stepped out to the front steps of the building. The sun was higher now, warming the concrete. Martin exhaled deeply, relief mixed with resolve. "You understand," he said. "There's no going back after this." "I know." "You're not destroying your son, Nora." "I'm defending what I built." "That's the difference," he agreed. My phone buzzed. "Ethan." Martin raised a brow. "You taking it?" "Yes," I answered. Ethan's voice came through shaky, forced steady. "Mom, where are you? Lydia said you were at the registry." "I am." "What are you doing there?" "Protecting myself." A long pause. Then a quiet, "Mom, please don't file anything." "It's already filed." His breathing hitched. You didn't have to go that far." "You did," I corrected softly, "when you let her file the first request." "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she filed anything today." "You knew she planned to," I replied. "Silence isn't innocence, Ethan. It's permission." He swallowed hard. "Mom, we can fix this. We can undo everything. Just tell the office it was all a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding. You're going to ruin us. You ruined yourselves." A quiet sob slipped through the line. Ethan never cried as a child unless he'd broken something he knew he couldn't fix. Today was the same. "Please," he whispered, "don't let them arrest us." "You should have thought about that before you touched my signature." He had no answer for that. Eventually, the line went silent, then disconnected. Martin looked at me, impressed. "You didn't fold." "I'm done folding," I replied. "That version of me is gone." Back inside, Laura called us again. "Mrs. Caldwell, one more thing." Martin and I stepped back to her desk. Because of the 2 forged attempts, she explained, the system automatically generated a protection file under your name. It flags any future property action involving your signature. In simple terms? Martin asked. Laura smiled. In simple terms, if anyone tries this again, the system calls me before it calls them. I nodded slowly. Good. And, she added, you can request a full security note. It requires your physical presence for any future property changes. No exceptions. Martin turned to me. We should do it. We will. The note was added in less than 5 minutes. Another signature, another stamp, another layer of protection. When I was done, I closed my folder. That's everything? For today, Laura said. But, Mrs. Caldwell? Yes? You're doing the right thing. People like them don't stop until someone stops them. That's why I'm here. Outside, Martin walked me to my car. Next step is simple, he said. Go home, change every lock, freeze every joint account, and call me if you see anything out of place. I know the drill. He gave a small, approving nod. Most people don't. Most people crumble when the guilty cry. I'm not most people. You're not, he agreed. You're a woman who finally chose herself. I opened the car door, folder tucked tight under my arm. The legal counterstrike was complete. The house was safe. The fraud was exposed. The system was now watching. And from this point forward, whatever consequences came for Ethan and Lydia, they wouldn't come from me. They'd come from the law they tried to cheat. I drove home with the windows cracked just enough to let in the cold air. Not harsh, just steady. The kind of air that keeps you awake when you're doing something irreversible. The house looked different when I pulled into the driveway. Same walls, same porch, same front door. But it didn't feel owned by everyone anymore. It felt owned by me. Martin pulled in behind me. He stepped out with 2 coffee cups. You'll need this. Locksmith's 10 minutes away. Good. I want everything changed today. We walked through the front door. The silence inside carried a new weight. Cleaner, sharper, controlled. Martin glanced around. They didn't come back. Of course they didn't. People don't return to a scene where their lies were exposed. He handed me a folder. This is the new financial plan we talked about. You want to review it now or after the locks? Now. The sooner I cut them off, the sooner I breathe. We sat at the dining table. The same table where Lydia once placed her diamond necklace for show. The same table where Ethan laughed too loudly when she mocked me. Now the table was empty except for legal paperwork. Martin opened the folder. Step 1. Freeze every joint utility. They've been using your name for years without contributing $1. Freeze all of them, I replied. Electric, water, internet, everything. He tapped a page. Terminate access button is here. You ready? Yes. I pressed it. 1 click, a clean break. Step 2, he continued. Your bank accounts. We move your primary funds to a protected solo account. Ethan won't be able to charge a single bill without your signature. Do it. We filled out the form together. Direct, simple, unemotional. Step 3, Martin said. Your will. You want to finalize the removal? Yes, I answered. Remove Ethan completely. Add Natalie and the grandkids. You're certain? I'm done funding lessons he refuses to learn. He nodded respectfully and opened a new packet. I initialed page by page, then signed the final line. Effective immediately, Martin said quietly. Your estate is no longer his safety net. A knock sounded at the front door. Not loud, polite, almost careful. The locksmith. He carried a box of new locks, tools clipped to his belt. Mrs. Caldwell, I'm here for the rekey order. Martin motioned him in. Every door, every window lock, the safe lock too. The locksmith nodded. Give me an hour. As he worked, I moved through the house slowly, room by room, not mourning, just observing. The guest room, they'd used it as storage, piling boxes they never opened. The study, where Lydia pretended to organize my documents. The kitchen, where Ethan told me to leave my own home. I opened a drawer. Empty. For once, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. My phone buzzed. Natalie. I answered. Yes? Mom, I'm outside. I brought the kids. We got groceries, too. You didn't have to. I wanted to. I stepped outside. Natalie stood at the driveway with 2 bags in her hands and 2 small faces peeking from behind her coat. My granddaughter waved. Grandma, can we stay for dinner? For as long as you want, I replied. Natalie looked at the locksmith's van. You changed the locks. I changed everything. She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. Her eyes softened. Good. We walked inside. The kids ran straight to the living room. Their laughter filled the empty space that had been quiet too long. Natalie placed the groceries on the counter. Do you want help cooking? Yes, I replied. Let's use the good pans. She smiled. Dad called me. He sounded different. He will be, I answered gently. Choices have consequences. She exhaled. Do you hate him? No, I told her. But I won't let him harm what's mine. That sounds fair. It is. While we cooked, Martin walked in from the hall. Locks are halfway done. He'll finish soon. Bank updates are approved, and the estate changes will be filed by tomorrow morning. Thank you, I said. You did the hard part, he replied. When the locksmith finally finished, he handed me a small silver ring of keys. New beginning, he said simply. I nodded. Yes, it is. He left. Martin gathered his things. You're safe now. Completely. I know. And Nora? Yes? I'm proud of how you handled this. It was time. He gave a warm nod and stepped out. Natalie touched my arm. Mom, are you okay? I'm finally okay. We set the table. The kids laughed. The house felt mine again. Not shared, not invaded, not borrowed. Before dinner, I wrote a short note and placed it on the kitchen counter. Only one line. The house is mine. The payments are gone. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. And clarity was the first real peace I'd felt in a long time. The call came at 8:14 a.m. the next morning. Unknown number. Charleston Police Department code. I didn't flinch. I picked up. Mrs. Caldwell, this is Officer Ramirez. We're executing the fraud warrants you filed. We need you present as a verification witness. I'll be there. Martin met me outside the station. He looked ready, not angry, not triumphant, just steady. This is it, he said, the part where everything lands. I'm prepared. Inside the precinct, officers were already walking back and forth with paperwork. A detective approached us. Mrs. Caldwell, we brought in 2 individuals connected to your case. We're placing them in separate rooms to avoid communication. Martin glanced toward the hallway. Lydia? And Ethan, the detective confirmed. The air didn't shift. My heartbeat didn't change. I wasn't here to feel. I was here to confirm truth. Let's begin, I responded. The door to the first interview room opened. Lydia sat inside, hands cuffed, eyes wide but trying to hide the panic. She still wore makeup, but it didn't look perfect anymore. Too rushed, too smeared, too desperate. She looked up sharply when she saw me. You did this, she hissed. You did. My voice stayed level. Twice. You're destroying your own family. No, I corrected. I'm protecting it from you. The detective slid the forged documents across the table. Mrs. Caldwell, can you confirm this is not your signature? I studied the page only long enough to recognize the lie. That is not mine. Lydia leaned forward. Nora, stop. We can fix this. You don't need to press charges. Ethan didn't know. I handled everything. You said that yesterday, I replied, right before you filed a second attempt. Her face cracked. The detective turned to her. So you admit you filed both requests? Her mouth opened, then closed, trapped. I want a lawyer, she snapped. Good, Martin muttered under his breath. For once. We left her there, shaking. Next room. Ethan sat with his head in his hands. No cuffs, just a broken man, realizing he'd crossed a line he couldn't walk back from. When he looked up and saw me, his face crumbled. "Mom, please." I didn't move closer. "You understand why we're here." "I didn't sign anything. Lydia told me it was just paperwork to update the house records. She told me you were planning to retire." "And you believed her," I finished. "Without checking, without asking, without thinking." His eyes filled. "I made a mistake." "More than one." The detective placed the second forged document in front of him. "Mr. Caldwell, your wife submitted a backup request with your name on the application. You're listed as a co-beneficiary. That places you inside the conspiracy." Ethan shook his head violently. "I didn't know she filed a second one. I swear to God." "That's the problem." My voice stayed calm. "You swear to everyone except yourself." He pressed his palms to his face. "Mom, I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I replied, "and you let her lead because it was easier than standing up." Ethan's voice broke. "Are you really going through with this?" "Yes," I answered plainly. "You committed fraud. Not once, twice." He dropped his hands and looked at me like he finally saw the truth. I wasn't bending. Not this time, not ever again. "Mom, please," he whispered. "Don't let them arrest us." "I didn't choose the arrest," I replied. "You chose the actions." The detective stepped forward. "Mrs. Caldwell, do you verify the complaint and request to proceed?" "I do." Ethan closed his eyes. That single second held 30 years of memories: birthdays, school events, Christmases, dinners, tears, hugs. Then it ended. He whispered, "I'm so sorry." "For your sake," I told him softly, "I hope you mean it." The detective tapped the file. "Mr. Caldwell, your statement will be taken officially. Then paperwork continues with the magistrate." I turned to leave. Ethan's voice followed me, faint, broken. "Mom, do you still love me?" I paused at the doorway, didn't turn, didn't soften. "I love you," I answered, "but love doesn't erase consequences." He cried openly. "But tears don't reverse crime. And I didn't come here to negotiate." Outside the interview rooms, Martin walked beside me. "That was the hardest part," he said. "No," I replied quietly. "The hardest part was pretending not to see this coming." He nodded. "Where do you want to go now?" "Home?" I answered. "I've got grandchildren to raise." He smiled. "And they're lucky to have someone like you." "I'm doing what any mother should do," I said. "Protect the next generation when the last one loses its way." As we stepped out of the precinct, the air felt lighter. Not because justice was loud, because justice was finally working. And this time, it was on my side. 1 year later, Christmas morning looked nothing like the last one. No yelling, no tension, no performance. Just the smell of cinnamon rolls drifting through the kitchen and 2 small sets of footsteps running across the hardwood floor. My granddaughter peeked around the corner first. "Grandma, can we open one present before breakfast?" "Just one," I answered, pretending to be stern. She giggled and ran to the living room where her brother was already shaking a box gently, trying to guess what was inside. Natalie, my daughter, stood beside me at the stove. "They've been awake since 5, she whispered. "I told them to wait until you got up." "I was up before they were," I replied. "Old habits," she smiled. "You look happier this year." "I am." We set the table together: eggs, fruit, warm bread, tea. A year ago, this same house felt like a battlefield. Today, it felt like a home again. The kids tore into the small gifts we let them open. Laughter filled every room, bouncing off walls that had once held arguments, secrets, and forged documents. Natalie leaned against the counter. "Do you still think about everything that happened?" "I don't avoid it," I answered, "but I don't live in it." "That's a good place to be." "It took time," I admitted, "but peace usually does." Her eyes softened. "Ethan asked about you last week." I didn't react, not visibly. "Not. How is he?" "Different. Quieter. He goes to counseling twice a week. He told me he's trying to face what he became. Good, I replied. Trying is the first honest thing he's done in years. Do you want to see him today? She asked carefully. No, I said gently, but I don't want to avoid him forever. Natalie nodded. She understood. She always had. My phone vibrated on the counter. A message from Ethan. Merry Christmas, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me. I know I don't deserve it yet, but I'm working on becoming someone you can trust again. I read it twice. Not because it hurt, because it didn't. Natalie watched me. You okay? I'm proud of him, I answered. Not for the crime, for the accountability. She placed a hand on my shoulder. He misses you. I miss who he used to be, I admitted, not the man he became. Maybe he can become the old him again. Maybe, I said softly, if he chooses better. The stove timer beeped. I pulled out the rolls and placed them on the counter. The kids came running, shouting that breakfast smelled like sweet magic, which made Natalie laugh. We sat down to eat. Warm light filled the dining room. No raised voices, no tension, just family, the right parts of it. My grandson reached for the silver mug sitting near my plate. Grandma, is this the special one? Yes, I answered. Your grandpa used to drink from it every Christmas. Can I use it today? I smiled. You can. He held it proudly, like it meant something important. And in a way, it did. It represented legacy, the kind built on values, not entitlement. After breakfast, I stepped outside for a moment while the kids played. The porch was cool under my hands. The air smelled like pine from the tree we'd cut together. Natalie followed me out. You've done so much this year, she said softly. I'm just living differently, I replied. You're living freely. I considered that, then nodded. Yes, I am. She hesitated before speaking again. Mom, Lydia reached out too. To you? Yes. She's in counseling as well. Mandatory. She asked if you'd ever speak to her. Not yet, I answered. Apologies don't erase choices. They only show who wants to grow. Natalie breathed out. You're the strongest woman I know. No, I corrected gently. I'm a woman who finally stopped shrinking. We went back inside. The kids were building towers out of their new blocks. Martin's Christmas card sat on the counter. Simple, neat handwriting. Justice stands when truth does. Proud of you, Nora. I left it there. It felt right. Later that afternoon, I wrote a short reply to Ethan's message. Merry Christmas, Ethan. Healing takes time. Keep doing the work. When you're ready, we'll talk. Not cruel, not forgiving everything, not reopening the door too soon. Just honest. Natalie read the message over my shoulder. That's perfect. It's enough, I replied. Enough for now. She smiled. Mom, last Christmas broke you. No, I said quietly. Last Christmas removed the parts of my life that needed to go. And this one? I looked around. The warm kitchen, the kids laughing, the fresh locks on the doors, the peace on every surface of the house. This one gave me myself back. Natalie leaned into me. Then it's a good year. It's the best one I've had in a long time. As evening settled in, the kids curled against me on the couch while we watched an old movie. Natalie sat on the floor beside us, sorting wrapping paper. For the first Christmas in years, the house felt whole. Not because everyone was here, but because the right people were. And as the lights glowed softly against the windows, I finally understood. Justice didn't take my family away. It rebuilt the part worth keeping. And for the first time, I wasn't living for survival. I was living in peace. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of my story. If you're still here, it means something in my journey touched your heart, or reminded you of your own strength. Life doesn't always give us gentle lessons. Sometimes it gives us painful ones, the kind that force us to stand up for ourselves, even when it hurts. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You are never too old, too tired, or too broken to start again. And you are never wrong for choosing peace over chaos. If my story made you feel seen, or gave you courage, or simply kept you company tonight, then I'm grateful. Before you go, if you'd like to hear more stories like this, you can subscribe to Grandma Life Stories. It's completely free, and it helps these stories reach more people who may need them. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Your comments remind me that none of us walk through life alone. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Take care of yourself, set your boundaries, choose peace, and I'll see you in the next video.